everyone, my name is Phil. Welcome back to another Scraptail devlog. I have a lot of work to do and there's a lot to talk about, so let's get started. So over the last 2 weeks, we have been focusing a lot on just making the game more fun. Like, we like the basis of where we're at right now, but we just felt like the game was a little not enough, if that makes sense. So the map was there, the gameplay was there, but a lot of things just felt clunky and there was something missing. It felt too easy, too boring, too uneventful at times, and so we really wanted to focus on getting rid of that aspect. We didn't want to add more mechanics per se, but we wanted to make the mechanics that we already have more fun. And so many of the changes for this week's devlog are improvements rather than additions. Starting with our map restructuring. The map now is a lot bigger, it has a lot more to do, a lot more to avoid, and overall it just has a lot more for the player to look at and keep them busy. Before, it kind of just felt like narrow corridors, and it felt too static. So yeah, we made the walls a bit bigger, we added balconies, we added more buildings, and we have been working on making the map more dynamic. So we have been implementing a new swing mechanic as opposed to the previous trampoline mechanic. We removed the trampoline mechanic as we felt like it was not that fun and something else could substitute it. So we are working on implementing that swing mechanic as well as some new, more intricate parkour puzzles. We've also implemented more dynamic obstacles. Before, we only had one obstacle, which were the spikes, which were not that intuitive that were obstacles, and people would just kind of run into them and not even notice that they took damage. And they were static and they didn't really add much to the game and just overall felt like an inconvenience rather than a gameplay mechanic. So now we've implemented steam vents and some swinging electric cables. Obviously, the visuals still have to be improved, but it's good as a general proof of concept. They make the game a lot more dynamic. Just the fact that it adds some timing to the thing already helps a lot, and it makes the world feel more alive as well, so we're really happy about that change. We've also implemented new item models. Before, our heavy loot, or as we are calling it now, precious loot, they used to just be random skulls and we just called them jewelry as a placeholder, but now they are actual objects that belong to the world, like ancient paintings, ancient vases, maps, etc. And we plan on adding many more, but this is a good basis and I think it solidifies what this precious loot thing is supposed to be about. So we're really happy about that as well. The models turned out great and I think it adds a lot to the game too. We were also struggling with the combat a lot. More specifically, whenever an alarm was triggered, a player would just get completely swarmed by enemies, which, you know, it never felt right to me, because how would the enemies know where the player is just from a simple alarm sounding? So that always felt strange to me, but also it was just too complicated. For example, we have a section in the game where there's around 16 or 17 enemies, I believe. So if the alarm was triggered, you would have to fight 16-17 enemies at once, which is not optimal at all. In this game, you're not supposed to fight more than 5 or 6 people at a time, I think. And so that just didn't feel great. So we spent some time brainstorming how that should work, and the solution that we came up with is that to split the zones into even smaller zones, or protection targets as we're calling them. Basically, each alarm tower is a protection target, and there's also, if there's too many enemies, there's more protection targets spread out along the map. And this way, in each protection target, there are around 5 enemies, 5 or less. And that way, first of all, you have to go to the alarm tower to turn off the alarm, or else you can't progress the game. And so you will always be forced to fight these people, which is something that we kind of want to implement, because that's the whole point of the alarm system. But you don't have to fight that many people at once, and you kind of have breathing room in case you want to escape. The alarm is not as unforgiving as it was before. So, you know, the way that it works now is that 5 guards will protect a guard tower. If you get too close to the guard tower, they'll attack you. If you don't, they kind of just stare at you and be like, "What up, bro? Come at us," type of thing. But if you get too far from the tower, then they're not dumb. They're still going to go back to the tower and protect it, or else the player could just dodge them and then go back to the tower and turn off the alarm and run away. So we think this is a good solution that kind of pleases all parties. Like a stealth player that just triggered an alarm by accident, well, they're probably going to restart the game as soon as they trigger the alarm anyway. But if that happens and they don't want to restart the game, then, you know, they can kind of skip combat a little bit. They can skip it completely, but they don't have to go into an all-out fight. Whereas people that like mob combat and are there for the loud playthroughs, that also satisfies them, as they can have multiple group combats at once. There are still some improvements that I want to make, but I'm not sure about them, so I'll leave them for later. For now, we're really happy with how the combat is turning out. With that said, previously, losing health was also a big problem because you didn't have any way to regain it. So you kind of have to do a hitless playthrough, or, you know, in 3 hits we were dead. So now we've implemented some health vials and some energy vials so that you can kind of gain some health and recharge your tail as well. With that, we also implemented pickpocketing. Pickpocketing was already in the game, but we re-implemented it. It wasn't in this level yet, but we re-implemented it. So now if you kill some enemies, they'll drop some items, or you don't have to kill them. You could just pickpocket from them in case you wanted to do a peaceful playthrough. I believe these improvements were all the major things that we did, unless I'm forgetting something. We are working on the market area right now. We already have some concepts going on, and 3D art is being developed right now, but we're still working on that, so we don't have anything clear to show just yet. However, we do have some smaller changes that I just want to mention, just so that they are locked. First, the special attacks are now kind of finished. At least they don't break the game anymore. We now have a special tail attack for pulling and pushing. When you pull, you kind of just do a sucker punch that kills the enemy automatically. When you push, then you kind of just push the enemy to the nearest wall and they get stunned, and any enemy that they hit on the way will get pushed back. So we think that adds some more, it makes the combat more dynamic, and I'm really happy with how that turned out as well. The AI now has a fall animation. They also take damage if they fall from high enough. We've optimized the game for a controller. That's the main way that the game is supposed to be played, so we kind of forgot about the keyboard for now, and we're going all in on the controller. We've made small tweaks to the dialogue UI, like new animations, and also there's a background now. We implemented the UX UI choices that were talked about last week. So we improved the current objectives UI. It should be a lot clearer what the player has to do now. We changed the tail UI design, as it was not very intuitive previously. We implemented pop-ups that give you some information when doing something for the first time, like picking up some loot for the first time, and also when you're using structures for the first time. Added a new animation to the money whenever you collect some money, you know, just little things like that to make the game stand out and pop and just make it more comfortable for the player. I think that's really our main goal right now, is to make sure that the player feels comfortable, they don't feel lost, and they feel like they're having a good time. Not necessarily an amazing time, but you know, it's much easier to bring back a player that felt like the game wasn't fun than bringing back a player that thinks that the game was broken and not playable, you know what I mean? And then we just did a lot of bug fixing and overall just small tweaks, like for example the particles on the structures are based on the distance now, for example, so that the whole map is not just twinkling with particles as it was before. You know, little tweaks like that, and just overall fixing bugs. Our changelog is huge regarding bugs. But yeah, I believe those are all the changes we have from the past 2 weeks. If you would like to try all of this out for yourself, it is available on our Patreon for the Master Thief tier patrons. Which reminds me, once again, thank you Dr. Kepper82 for your support. We appreciate you a lot. Our goals for the next couple of weeks are actually unclear because we are ahead of schedule, but I don't want to get ahead of myself. There's a lot of things that we want to implement, but I just really want to like dig in and fine-tune everything that we have so far. But we are ahead of schedule, so I might mess around and try to implement a little bit of the heist hub. We'll see how we're feeling. But yeah, definitely, you know, finish up the map. We still need to do the market, we still need to do the walls, we'll still need to do the floor. So our 3D artists are going to be busy for a while. Good luck to them. Before I end the video, I just wanted to give a shout out to Nerdchomp. They're making this very cute 3D platformer with a placeholder name Nectar, where you play as a flower pot that needs to use some abilities to grow plants and manipulate the world. And it just looks super fun and intriguing, and I've been having a lot of fun following their devlogs, so I think you should definitely check them out. Thank you so much for tuning into this week's devlog. Let us know what you're thinking of these recent changes. It really helps a lot. Your feedback is so important to us. We sometimes get blind and we don't really know what is making the game fun or less fun. So yeah, let us know. It really does help more than you think. With that said, have a good weekend, and I will see you in 2 weeks.